Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm here with Spencer Hill. You can see the skull on his table there. He hunts, he races and builds cars, and he catches moles. So let's have an interesting conversation with Spencer. Spencer can have some really strange conversations. So, Spencer, tell the people a bit about yourself.
Yeah, Roy introduced me. I'm a bit of an oddball. I'm out there doing everything. I'm into race cars. We're building a couple of race cars, one of them to advertise for my company. I'm into hunting, living outdoors, doing all kinds of stuff. And yeah, so I own a mole trapping company as well here in the Pacific Northwest. And we're growing and we're working through the growing pains. And that's how I met you, is through that, being a burnt out business owner, trying to get my life back together, or maybe it was never together.
Maybe we can just enjoy today. That's the way to go. Yeah,
But I'm having fun doing it all.
yeah, amazing. You had quite a cool story how you got into trapping moles. But go back a little bit and tell us a little bit about, yeah. I think you're probably one of the many of us entrepreneurs that are unemployable, right?
So the mole thing has just been like a bane of my existence forever. When I was a kid, I grew up on my dad has a large piece of property and he hates the moles. And he was like, he put in this nice lawn, and every day he'd wake up and there'd be new molehills in the yard, and we were trying everything. We did like every gimmick that doesn't work. We tried it. So we tried all the powders and chemicals and poisons, and it got to the point where we bought this thing. It looks like a flamethrower, and you're like putting it in the holes and you're pumping it full of like oxyacetylene and you're blowing up the yard. So it was like a war zone at my dad's house. And I'm sure the neighbors were like, what the hell are these people doing? The Beverly Hillbillies out there just blowing up the yard. But, anyways, my kind of chore with that became catching the moles. And so once we figured out how to catch the moles, that was what I ended up doing. And I never expected it to be what I do for a living. I had other aspirations, and I don't know, it just kind of, this is the one that stuck. So here we are.
You went into the military for a while?
Oh yeah, I was in the Army. I just did one term, just under 4 years. I was in the 82nd Airborne. I jumped out of airplanes and shot machine guns and did all this stuff that as a kid, the way I sold myself on why I was joining the military was, what did you want to be as a kid? And nobody said, oh, I want to be a mole catcher, or I'm going to be a life coach or whatever. It was like, I'm going to be a freaking paratrooper, right? Or a police officer or one of these things. And so I was like, I'm just chasing childhood dreams, man. So I went and did that, and it was an experience, some positive, some negative, but yeah.
And you came out of there and you decided, right, at some point, you went into some work and did that?
I got out. My dad had retired at the time, and he called me and said, I need help. So he bought this farm. I went over and lived on his farm. And funny story, my dad's he's an interesting guy. He told me, oh yeah, we got a place for you to stay, and we'll feed you and all this stuff, and we'll pay you, and it'll be a good situation for everybody. And so I'm like, this sounds great. I had everything that I owned in a bag, in those green military duffel bags. And I got out of the Army and I left, and I was driving, and I sold my reliable truck to drive. I like these little race cars. And so I had this shitty little race car, a 1992 Nissan 240SX, I think it was. Maybe it was a 96 Nissan 240SX, but I'm driving. I leave North Carolina. I get to Georgia. The car catches on fire and burns to the fucking ground. I grab my bag out of the thing. I got no money. I got nothing. I just have everything in this bag. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do now? So I had a buddy that lived close by, and I stayed with him until I had a couple more paychecks coming from when I got out of the military. I waited for my paycheck to come, and I got a plane ticket, and I flew to my grandparents' house first in Arizona, and I stayed with them for a couple weeks, spent some time with them, and then I decided, like, all right, it's probably time to fly back to my dad's and get to work. And so when I got to my dad's, he picks me up from the airport and drives me over. It's about maybe 2.5, 3 hour drive. I hadn't seen my dad for years, pretty much the whole time I was in the military. Maybe I saw him once or twice, but so we did some catching up on the drive, and we get there. It's freezing freaking cold. And he's, oh yeah, this is where you can stay. And it's a shack. There's no power, there's no water, there's no nothing, dude. It's a 12 by 12 like rodeo announcement shack. And I'm like,
Wow.
I don't have anything else going on. So
You
I
just spent
finished
some
it up.
time in the military, so you've had some rough days, I'm sure.
So I went and did that for a while. And then through that, my dad ended up coming out of retirement, getting his business back over here on the west side. And I went to work in the machine shop again. So I grew up in machine shops. And
Yeah. That's where the knowledge of the cars and what to do there comes from.
I have one memory of when I was a kid. My dad had a Corvette, like a 98 Corvette. And I don't know how fast we went because I was just a little kid. But I remember like that car just seeming so fast. And like the one time that we really went in it, just that was like the addiction to speed. Never looked back.
You spent a few dollars on that, right?
Oh my gosh. I don't want to know how much I've spent on it.
Yeah, but that's life, right? If you can do the things you love doing, that's all we can ask for. You
Yeah,
know?
I could be spending my money on a lot dumber stuff. It's just we got to have hobbies, and sometimes we have too many hobbies. You got to purge some hobbies.
And you go hunting as well. I know you go hunting. So tell us a bit about that.
Successful. I have my friend that is a hunting guide, calls it adult onset hunting disorder or something like that. And because I didn't start doing it when I was a kid, some of these guys grew up out in the woods and they know everything about it. And that's not me. I'm fumbling through this on my own. I like a challenge. I like to do extreme everything. So I started with archery hunting, which is probably the backwards way of doing things. But I was like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it. I want to be up close. I want to be personal. And like my first year hunting, I had extreme, like, we had a lot of success. Guys, we didn't get an animal, but I called in all these elk and I had no idea what I was doing. And so that kind of ruined me. I was like, dude, I can do this. And then every year after that has been increasingly more difficult and increasingly more difficult. I shot my first deer last year. That's the one on the table there. So it took me 5 years to actually harvest something. I don't know. I like it. I enjoy it. I'm not like a full-on like hunting addict, but I enjoy the clean meat and knowing where my food came from and the adventure. That's what this is all
Yeah,
about, right? It's just being out there and doing something that I'll go out in the woods with a buddy and we won't see anybody for a week. It's cool.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, just reconnecting with nature and actually getting back to yourself and breathing that fresh air. Must be awesome. And where you stay is just amazing as well. The whole area is so beautiful. It's one of my favorite places in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tough to beat.
apart from the rain. Yeah, but then you have to have the rain to have the good green, right?
And I don't know. Some of us, like, there's a term, a pluviophile. I think that's someone who's in love with the rain or whatever. You have to be in love with the rain here a little bit. And
Yeah.
it makes you tough. You're not going to walk around in Washington, maybe in Seattle, but most people, you're never going to see an umbrella or anything like that. People just deal with the
They
rain.
blow away, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you go and you decide to go and get into a mole company. Tell us the beginning story of that.
Well, I just started doing it on the side for like beer money. And like, we just, I don't know, it just became a thing. And then I started out when I realized I actually didn't start the mole business first. I started the pressure washing business first. I bought like I think I got my first pressure washing job. I don't know. I borrowed my mom's pressure washer. One of her neighbors wanted something pressure washed. So I did like their driveway and their patio. And I was like, I can make money doing this on the side. Like I had a job and it was a good job and probably would have been a good career, but I wanted more. So I went out, I did the pressure washing thing. So I figure out, oh man, this is going to work. I can make money doing this. So this is bad, but those sandwich boards that you see that are advertising houses or new housing
Yeah.
developments, I stole one of those and then I painted it all white. And then with a giant marker, I just wrote pressure washing and my phone number. And I set it out on like the main highway. And then people would call me and I'd go and I'd pressure wash driveways or whatever. I bought a big pressure washer. And anyways, then I started doing the mole thing as well. I started just trapping the moles and that kind of took off the same way, except for I didn't steal anything this time. I got a bunch of those white signs and I wrote got moles on all of them and I put them up all over the place and I just started getting phone calls. And so I started out small. It was me in a Honda Civic, like a 98 Honda Civic, and I had maybe 30 or 40 traps in the trunk. And I'd just go on a Friday because I worked 410s back then. So I worked Monday through Thursday and then Fridays. And I just started really small in my local community and I just started doing it there. And then we started pushing it out, growing. I got it to, well, COVID hit and I got laid off from my machinist job. And I just decided then, fuck it.
I think one of the things that I love about how you've gone through the journey is you've actually picked up a couple of different elements that have really worked for you. Yeah, your recurring revenue piece. A business isn't a business unless you have recurring revenue. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a sales job. You never know when the next paycheck's coming. And you've done that very well. You initially, before we met, you already had a recurring revenue stream coming in. Tell us a bit of a story about that and how that's going to change your outlook.
I didn't in the beginning. I started out like everybody else, and I did a per mole thing. I'd charge people a setup fee or something, and then we'd come out per mole. We'd catch per mole, but it was so seasonal, and I would get to the point where it was like I'd have a great summer. I'd make money all summer, and then all winter I was like working 1 or 2 days a week. And then the other thing is like with the reoccurring thing is I didn't realize that it was even a thing until I made friends with the owner of a pest control company. And I explained, we went out to lunch and I told him, like, man, it's really hit or miss. It's really like I have some huge months and then I have some months where like I'm barely making ends meet. And so, yeah, you really got to save money, prepare for the winter. And he was like, have you ever thought about doing it as like a reoccurring service? And I said, no, I've never done anything like that. So we talked about it a little bit. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, I know that this way works because I've done the year-round trapping thing at my dad's place and at a few other people's houses. And I know I'm getting these return customers all the time. They're calling me 3, 4, 5 times a year. So we started looking into that. At this point, when I did this, I had Corey with me, working with me. So it wasn't just me anymore. So we fooled around with it. And on the customers that were calling me all the time, we just said, hey, instead of paying us $300-400 every time that we're coming out here, why don't you just keep us out here for the whole year? We'll charge you, I think we started at $75 or something like that. $75 a month. We'll stay out here the whole year. And then with that, we had a ton of success because we caught all the moles that were the problem. This is a very visual thing, right? You walk out in your yard, you spent $10,000 putting in this nice lawn and all this beautiful landscaping. And this is like your place, your happy place. You go out there and you feel at peace. And you wake up in the morning and there's a molehill in your beautiful new lawn. You're pissed. So I don't want people to deal with that. Live without that. Enjoy your freedom, your time, your space with your family, do your thing, and forget about the moles. So we started catching the moles that were right around that area where you're the pain point, and then we started pushing out to the perimeter and catching them before they ever got into the problem areas. And we've had a lot of luck doing it that way. I don't think that there's a better way at this point. If we can act proactively instead of reactively, we can solve the whole problem before it ever becomes an issue.
The spirit of the entrepreneur right there. We see a problem in the world and we feel the people's pain. You grew up with moles and you grew up knowing what that pain was. Yeah, you fed off of your father's kind of rage about the moles, rage against the moles.
Rage against the moles. Yeah.
So that stayed with you. And then you saw the problem and you went out and you're like, you know what? I can fix this problem. And it's been a journey from there. How long have you been doing this now?
I've been in business. I think this is my 9th year in business.
Well,
8th or 9th year. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, you go out in the world and you're like, okay. And then you kind of get a bit stuck, don't you? So you kind of get stuck into your business becomes everything because you have to be there all the time. And it's not even about being there all the time. You can never turn off.
Turning it off is difficult, and giving up control of things in your business is difficult. And because you created it all, right?
Yeah.
Who knows your business better than you, right? And I think a lot of business owners live by that. If you want something done right, do it yourself. And I think that's a real problem for small business. You have to be able to rely on other people. You have to be able to delegate and trust that the people in your organization can help you do these things. Otherwise, you're going to burn out, which is where you and I met. I was ready to I was so stressed. Look, I had hair before.
Yeah. And that's it, right? I guess there's that piece of being coachable as well. At some points, you're not coachable. You're just not. I wasn't coachable at the beginning. I was like, no, I can do this. I can do this. and you see somebody else doing it, right? And you're like, why can they do it? So you end up having this kind of almost guilt thing that you should be better and you should be able to do this. It's easy. There's all these people making all this money. Why can't I just do it? And then you get to a point of actually, you know what? If I want to go and learn how to drive a car properly, if I want to go and learn how to skydive, if I get a coach to teach me, why is the business any different? And we met and we've had some good times, and we'll talk about that a bit. I want to just before we go there, how many businesses have you started, do you think?
Oh man, I don't know how many I've started, but I remember my first business that I
Yeah,
started, and I got in trouble for it actually. When I think I was in maybe like sixth grade, I found this website that was selling fake Oakley sunglasses for super cheap. And I borrowed my parents' credit card and I bought, I don't know, 2 dozen pairs of these Oakleys and I started selling them at school. And my brother and I made business cards and it said Hillbros Shades. And yeah, they ended up busting me. I got in trouble. I mean, because we didn't have a business license or anything like that. But yeah, I think I must have been about 11 or 12 years old when I did that. I don't know. I've started and just dissolved probably 4 or 5 businesses and then
yeah,
I have to keep the blinders on and go through life like this. Like, what is important here? Because I see things all the time, and I'm like, you've seen it happen with me already. Oh, I see this is the new shiny thing over here, and I start
yeah.
wandering off in this direction of in my brain, I'm like, this is a $1 billion idea.
And how many people say that to you? Yeah, when they know you're a business owner, they come to you and they're like, I've got this great idea. You can just do this.
It
Yeah,
used to be all the time. I think with where I'm at in life now, with 3 kids and everything that's going on, the business and whatever, I just don't get out around other people that often, other business owners or other like my
yeah.
friends. And so I hear about this stuff a lot less now than I used to. But yeah, I still get phone calls all the time of people like, how hard is it for me to start a business? Or what do I have to do to get an LLC? Or hey, I got this idea and I want to run it by you because you own a business. And I entertain that stuff sometimes. And
Yeah, it's exciting looking through other people's eyes. And I think there's 1% of people in the world start a new business every year. Like over time, there's only 7% of people that will start a business in their lifetime. So it's a pretty unique group because there's that step you have to take. You have to leave some level of comfort that you built up for yourself. Yeah.
I think I've told you this before, but I have a friend who he's a very successful business owner. He took his family's business over and it wasn't a very successful thing at the time. And dude, he turned it into something amazing. And so him and I were talking, and when I was like really nervous about going out on my own and I didn't have a plan or anything like that, he told me there's no such thing as job security.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuck with me. No matter what you do, if you work for somebody else, you're never going to be the last one out the door because I have to take care of me and you have to take care of you. If it's your business and everything starts failing, like the last person, the captain goes down with the ship.
And there's that thing, right? That's as you're going through this process, what walls have you built for yourself that aren't really there? Right.
Oh,
I just want to have 2 months worth of salary saved up. I just want to have this. I just want to have that. And yeah. And I guess that leads me to yeah, AI. AI. We're just in such a different space in the world right now.
it's
Yeah.
insane.
And I think the introduction you had to AI was interesting, was an eye opener. But boy, man, have you run with it?
I think I was like, I'm a conspiracy theorist, man. So you start talking about AI, and I start thinking about like the Terminator and the
Yeah.
Matrix and all these things that we've seen along the way, right? Yeah, they're for entertainment or whatever. But so I just was like, I don't like that. I don't like the AI thing. I never thought of it in the same way as I do now. It was there, and I didn't want to give it any information about me because when they come for us, man, they were going to know everything about me, right? But
They know everything from your Alexa anyway, right?
I don't have Alexa. I didn't use when you and I got together the first time. I don't think I had used. I think I had used ChatGPT very little for some really novelty stuff, like made some pictures or something of cars, maybe. But I don't think I'd done anything. Now,
You called me up the last a couple of weeks ago. You know, "Oh, I built an app. Yeah, I'm building this whole
Yeah.
putting a whole new website. I'm like, hang on, slow down a bit. And that's one of the things that is so formative in this. What's the problem you actually need to fix?
Yeah. And that's the thing. The blinders applies to the AI as well. Cause like my wife gets pissed because I'll just be on Claude and just doing something. And she's like, what are you doing? Last night, prime example. So I've been dealing with this acid reflux stuff, and Claude and I have been running through what it is that's causing this, and it's food and it's some sleep habits that I have. And I'm on a CPAP machine, which I don't think I need anymore because I've lost all this weight and I'm healthier, and I don't think I'm having the issues. I looked at the Claude and I looked through the data, and I'm like, man, I'm not having these sleep apnea issues anymore. But I also don't want to quit without getting another sleep study. But I decided, dude, finding foods that I could eat with this problem has been a challenge. And through this process of the last 5, 6 months, I've been going to Claude and we've been like developing recipes or whatever. Well, last night we put it all together, man.
Yeah.
130 recipes, cookbooks with instructions. This is like a marketable thing. I'm like, here we go down the rabbit hole. I've got a cookbook now that's all
I actually have somebody that might be able to sell that for you.
perfect.
Met
Let's
him a few days
go.
ago. Right a second. Let's go. Remind me to tell you about him, Joseph. But yeah, so yeah, there's this thing that really drives me at the moment. Yeah, and there's always something. We don't need to know the stuff we need to know. How many times have you gone into your cars when you're working in your cars and you're like, okay, just help me with this?
Oh yeah.
I go, like you say, recipes. I go up to my fridge and I take a picture. I'm like, make me a Michelin style recipe that I can easily do, and then walk me through it. I'll go on holiday. I'm like, okay, where do I go here? And it's just we don't need to go to that expert anymore. There's 1,000 experts right at our fingertips, and that's where the power comes from. How do we think about AI? But it's a journey, right? Yeah, it's such a journey, and this is what I keep on telling people: is you can't do it overnight. Tell us a little bit about how your journey's evolved on that.
Oh man, I started just tinkering with the chat GPT or whatever it was. I had no idea what I could do, and I didn't have any idea how to ask or talk to the AI to get what I wanted out of it. I think we start out, and you put it really into perspective for me, is like you you throw out an idea or something into a room full of 1,000 experts and you're getting answers from just anybody. But if you're really selective of who you're asking, so like the cars thing, if I say I'm trying to get advice from an ASE master certified technician, I'm working on my 1991 Toyota MR2, I'm having these wiring issues, the headlights aren't working and the taillights flicker or whatever. I don't know what the problem is. Ask me some questions about how I can find this problem. You put that out there, and then it knows exactly who you need advice from or to help you. And they start. I've done that, and almost that same situation, and it started giving me wiring schematics and telling me like, okay, start here. Let's check at the taillight harness and let's look for loose grounds or check these bulbs. And then I told the AI, oh, yeah, I put LED bulbs. And they're like, oh, that could be, there's a different power here and stuff that I never would have thought of. And so it'll help you work through some of these problems if you know how to talk to it or ask for the advice that you need or whatever.
And that pushing back, right, as well. You got to keep on pushing back. You got to hold the ownership of the problem because otherwise you go down some rabbit holes, right? You go
Oh,
way down some rabbit holes.
and
Yeah,
then it starts to learn you as well, which is pretty impressive. If I open up my Claude right now and I told it like, hey, I want to start a new business, I want to do a car detailing business, I want to be in this area. It kind of looks at me and is, all right, buddy, that's not like a great idea. You've got a lot going on with your mole business. You've got all these things going on with the kids. Maybe rethink this. Here's a real life example. I've been looking at my marketing play and how do we get more leads. So I've told Claude what it is that I'm doing and what's working and what's not working. And we don't have all the data because I haven't really figured that part out yet. And so I'm looking at cold calling and door knocking and all these things, these direct mailers. And so I put all this information that I'm looking at into Claude, and Claude comes back and says, have you exhausted this Google Ads thing yet? And I'm like, no, not really. I haven't. Let's start there. That's already working. How come we're trying to reinvent the wheel? And it's
yeah. got so much better at that, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
6 months ago when you started, you ask it a question and it's just, yeah, that's awesome. That's a great idea. Yeah, selling soap on the side of the road. Yeah, it was perfect. Or,
Everybody should have a business. Yeah, right.
but then when you ask it the right way, tell me what I'm missing about this or any obvious things that I could do differently. It then comes back and says, there's 10 people on the road selling soap, right? Yeah, but it's got so much better at that. And I love that context you put in there because yeah, when it does know you better, you're right. It's now starting to say, actually, you've got more things on your plate you want to think about. And it's, yeah, I don't know. You've had your wife helping in the business, and yeah, she's done an awesome job. And that I'm sure caused some tensions. But this is like having a personal assistant. If you get it right, it's like having a personal assistant that can just keep up. And yeah, I've lost a few personal assistants because my brain's too scattered, right? Yeah, 10 things at once, and then I just I can't keep up with what you're trying to think about.
That's the entrepreneur in us, right? That's your superpower, is that maybe it's ADHD or whatever it is, but that causes us to be going all these different directions all the time. And trying to harness that, man, is if you can harness that, then
Notion,
everything else is
Notion. I tell you.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah. So what's the future look like? When we met, I think you said to me, if I could sell this business now, I would. Yeah. What's the future look like?
No, I don't want to sell. I want to grow. And if there's places with moles, like I want to open a branch there. The goal is to continue to grow and just I'm having fun with it now and I want to keep having fun with it. And I don't know. I think if I don't see any reason to sell it. There's no.
And it's that piece. I'm coming around to this piece of the wellness side of it, right? We don't respect ourselves enough as entrepreneurs to look after ourselves, right? Because everything else is more important. This baby that we birthed, this thing that we birthed, we have to put all our energy in there because we're helping our families and we're providing for them. And this is the rhetoric that I told myself. And then the health starts going and you start putting on weight and then suddenly everything's aching a bit more and then the blood pressure goes up and yeah, you can't run a business unless you can run yourself. We've done some cool stuff. You're now in ice baths,
Yeah.
breath work, a little bit of meditation. But when you start looking after that stuff yourself, how many aches and pains have gone away, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that, have you ever heard of the 4 burner theory?
No.
So the theory is that like your life has 4 burners as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. And so the burners are like family, friends, health, and business. And if you want to be successful, again, this is just a theory. If you want to be successful, you have to turn one of those burners off, right? So then you got 3. So you pick 3. And if you want to be ultra successful, then you got to turn 2 of those burners off. I think a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners or people in general kind of live like that. If you want your business to be successful, you do have to put in a ton of effort into it, right? It takes a lot of your life, but it doesn't have to take all of it, right? There has to be time for your family and there has to be time for your health. And if it's important to you, then you should have time for some friends. There's got to be a healthy balance.
I like that, but I also bring back to it this new world we're living in now. And people aren't realizing the power of that yet. I think as we go through the next 6 months, you start doing your automations and you start doing your cloud code and you start doing, understanding that knowledge is now essentially free. Yeah, it's $20 a month. And you can have any knowledge you want.
$20 a month doesn't get you very far on Claude code.
Not on cloud code for sure. That lasted you about 2 minutes, didn't
it? Yeah.
But yeah, but that information we'd have to go out and get before or pay for, or yeah, and it's there now. So yeah.
Oh, I have like you saw what I did. I've now created like 2 apps. Neither of them are going to hit the market, but
and a website. So yeah.
A website and 2 apps that function. And I have 0 coding, ability or skill. I type like this. Yeah.
Talk to text. It's the best thing in the world.
Oh yeah, the talk to text is life changing. But yeah, it's insane what you can do with the AI now. It's just incredible.
And it's just that piece of overwhelm, trying not to do, because we're like, look at all the things we can do. So we do 10 more. rather than doing one more properly. And this is again the entrepreneur overwhelm thing. Let me go out and fix all the problems. Yeah, but no, just
Yeah.
fix one at a time. Yeah, so we'll touch base again in a few months because I think you've got a goal this year of getting to 1,000 of your recurring revenue clients. And I think when we met, you had, I don't know how many you had 6 months ago.
Oh, I don't know, 300, maybe 250, something
Yeah.
like that.
So yeah, now you're on 450 almost, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So it's doubled your recurring revenue. That by itself massively increases the value of your company because somebody coming along and looks at it. And then finally, I just wanted to really touch base on you had a baby, yeah. And before you had the baby, when we first started working, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm working, I'm out trapping moles, I'm doing all these things. And then you had what, a few weeks off, 4 or 5 weeks that you didn't touch?
I think my son was in the NICU for 17 days. I was an hour drive to the hospital every day and an hour drive home. So during that hour drive, I was doing the phone calls. If the phone rang, I was answering it. I was calling people back or whatever I had to do to keep the business alive because my wife up to that point had been answering the phones, right? So that was a huge transition for us. And I had to trust that my guys could do what they needed to do. And luckily for me, I have Corey, and he stepped up and was able to just handle
And
things.
that's the big thing. Yeah, the people we bring, we surround ourselves with, we have to give them trust, right? And know that they can do it and let them fail as well. Yeah, I think we sit there and think no one can do this as well as we can.
Yeah, nobody can do this as well as I can. Nobody cares about my business the way that I care about my business. But then at the end of the day, like you start to realize that people do care
Yeah,
to do a good job. And when they start to get positive reinforcement from you as a business owner and from customers and whatever, then they double down on that and they just start doing, they do great. The more kind of freedom that I give these guys, the more I micromanage them, the more pushback I get. But the more freedom I feel that I give my employees, I tell them what to do, but I don't exactly tell them how to do it. And we have standards and guidelines and stuff to keep them in the lanes. But for the most part, they're on their own and they get to make the decisions on their own of how they go about their day to day. To me, when I was working for other people, that's how I wanted to be treated. Just tell me what you want me to do and then leave me alone to do it. And
yeah,
I'll do it. But most places, most organizations don't work like that. You got a manager that's like, when I was a machinist, I was very methodical and I wanted to do things the right way every time, which is the way to do this. You're making precision parts, sometimes within like half of a tenth of a thousandth. So extreme tight tolerances. And so for me, that's slow and methodical. And you go through each process to make this part perfect. Managers want you to get now, like we've got production to do, we gotta hit this number, whatever. And so you got a guy breathing down your throat every 30 minutes. He's walking by your machine and saying, are you gonna fucking retire on this part? And like that just makes you want to go slower, right? I mean,
you can only do what you can do. So yeah, we'll come back up in a few months' time, towards the end of the year maybe, and we'll just see. Did we get well? When we get the 1,000 in, we'll have the 1,000 party, and we'll talk about it. What's one bit of advice you'd give people out of all the stuff we've done together, out of the business world? What's one bit of advice you'd give people running a business?
burn the boats. Don't have a backup plan. If you give yourself a way out, then you're going to take it. If you give yourself an easy way out, then you're just going to quit. So I think you burn the boats and you can only go forward. So that would be my only piece of advice, I think.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
You too. Thank you.